Taking a look at the biggest changes that need to be made for the rest of the season, that and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this WTSP Wednesday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is Evan Klosky at EKlosky WTSP, we are your credentialed members of the media covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm the editor-in-chief over at the 813.tv. Of course, Evan is on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. And this show is every Monday through Friday, along with the Everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is sponsored by Ultimate GM. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your franchise. Talking about Todd Bowles' present and future, and then that crystal ball is going to tell us deeper into the future than just a couple of days. But Evan, we're going to start things off. 4 losses in a row. All of them have had different levels of heartbreak and frustration, but all these games have been close, right? I mean, the Ravens game got out of
Ravens one was more of like, hey, they showed some fight. That one got ugly.
Yeah, it got a little out of hand. They battled back. It was too little, it was too late. But this team has been in some tough games against some really tough opponents, and they're shorthanded. We've talked about that numerous times. But, you know, like you said, they show fight every single week. They're not rolling over. They're continuing to, be in these games. But let's talk about some things that you want to see changing moving forward. The bye week is the perfect time to kind of reassess, reevaluate, and then move forward. So let's start with the offensive side of the ball. What change would you like to see the offense make moving forward?
Well, it's interesting because if Mike Evans is coming back, which we think he will be week 12 against the Giants, whatever we have seen recently, it shouldn't be as drastic moving forward. So you have to, let's just say for the sake of argument, or for argument's sake, that Mike is going to be playing the rest of the season, right? We can deal with the hell that would exist if Mike is out for longer than that, or if a re-injury occurs, and it's going to be a little bit of what you just saw. But ultimately, I believe that having Bucky and Rashad involved in the passing game consistently is something I want to see, especially now. I would love to know if Rashad could maybe sprinkle in some snaps. Not all, but some snaps, maybe as the slot guy, motion man, something like that. I don't know why the Buccaneers don't do many wheel routes with Rashad. It's happened a couple of times in my head, and actually a couple of times it hasn't worked out. I think back to, last year and this year, I believe, like off the fingertips with Rashad and a little bit of sticky coverage. But I do believe if you schemed it up for a wheel route, we saw Alvin Kamara drop one this past week where he was wide open. But I think that there's some more ways to utilize him and Bucky in the passing game if teams are going to be this cover 2 shell that they normally are against the Buccaneers, especially when Mike comes into the picture and gets bracketed, double teamed, just dump it down, and that I know some people were a little bit, this was not a good Baker Mayfield game, the Niners game at all. Probably when we look back, maybe a bottom 3, bottom 4 type of performance from him. But I have no problem with Baker not stretching the field if it means him preventing the turnover-worthy plays and also dumping it down to his guys who will pick up 5, 6, 7 and keep the drive moving and keep moving the chains. So I'm okay with a little bit of a conservative Baker considering where this offense is and who's out of this offense, which now we got to factor in Tristan. But offensively speaking, yeah, I think lean on the running backs. Running the ball, throwing the ball, whatever, get Sean Tucker more involved. The offense has to run through the RBs. And hopefully Mike can have some blow-up games where he just pops off.
Obviously, we've been talking about leaning on the running backs for weeks, but once Mike comes back, lean on the running backs all you want, as long as Mike gets his 95 yards a game and still continues his 1,000-yard streak. But defensively, Evan, there isn't much there to be excited about right now. There really truly isn't, and they need to make a lot of changes, whether it's scheme, personnel, whatever. But those sweeping changes are not happening until after the season, right? You're not going to, completely start over 11 weeks into the year. But what is a change that you would like to see on the defensive side that might make them a little more tolerable for the rest of the year?
I need to see more aggressiveness. Right now, the defense has taken on the personality of their coach, who is calm, patient, reserved. I need aggression. Whatever you're doing right now, Todd, when you build up this defense and whatever you're trying to shield against your weaknesses, it's not working. You are statistically, especially since like week 4, when Servassier Dennis went down, you are statistically the worst, right there at the bottom, either second to last or last, in many statistical categories. And I understand the level of competition has been fierce, but you have not answered the bell. So whatever you're doing is not working. What do you have to lose? You're giving up chunk plays. You are giving up easy passes across the middle of the field. Tons of first downs. Your red zone defense stinks. What can you possibly do that would blow this thing up more than what's already happening? I need to see something different. I need to see some more fire. I need to see some more risk. And maybe that means you give up a 70-yard touchdown here and there. But maybe you also get a couple of picks. It's just you have Antoine, you have Jordan, you have Vita, you have Zion. Hopefully Jamel Dean's coming back. You have Levante. You have players who are really damn good in this league. This defense should not be as bad as it is. And if you're building a defensive system where you cannot overcome a bad linebacker and a bad cornerback, we got some issues, because that means that you are unable to help your team go above their punching weight to make them better. Something that we've asked Liam Cohen to do with Mike and Chris going down. And certainly the offense is not the same without them. Certainly that Niners game, 215 yards of offense, wasn't great, but they've ran the ball. They've done some things to at least put points on the board, at least 20, right? I mean, typically with Todd Bowles, he wants to give up 17 and under. And with this offense, under what he should, what he wants, what his goal is, they should be racking up a ton of wins. So I just need to see something different. I understand he's tried to tinker, but his tinkers are still very much within the system, right? So it's like his tinkering is, I'm going to put J.J. Russell in a little bit more than K.J. Britt, but we're still running the system. I'm going to blitz a little less, more 4-man rushes, and I'm going to get an extra pair of hands in coverage, but it's still the same system. It's different ways to do your system, but it's still your system. And I'm not saying you can reinvent the wheel week 11 in a bye week, but you got to know what the hell is wrong with your team right now when it comes to the middle of the field and your cornerback, and you got to help them out. You gotta shade coverage over to these areas to at least provide some help for your cornerback who's on an island and help in the middle of the field where you're stuck. And if that means you need to be a little bit more cover one, or cover two, whatever it might be, then you got to do these things. And just look, and teams are going to catch on, and then they're going to adjust, and they're going to burn you. But that's the way that it works. Because right now, typically, when you get burned for a few weeks, we see positive regression because you've learned from your mistakes. Oh, they caught on to this. Let me wiggle and move this way. 3 weeks later, they caught on. Let me wiggle and move that way. Bowles is just wiggling the same damn way for 6 weeks. So I'm just watching the tape. I'm sick and tired of it, as you can tell. A lot of fans are. And it's not for a lack of effort. It's not because they're not trying. I think the players are also – some players are gutting it out. I think Antoine Winfield Jr. is one of those guys, not 100% healthy. I think the foot is still very much an issue. But it's got to be better. It has to be better. And if not, there's only one solution coming at the end of the season, and I think that's something we're going to talk about.
We are indeed going to talk about that because there are plenty of people that are still rightfully upset about Todd Bowles, and those comments are growing louder and louder about his future. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On Bucs listeners, remember our great partner, Ultimate Pro Football GM? Well, they're back, and they have added an amazing new game mode that I need to tell you about. The game has you step into the shoes of a football franchise GM and lead it to glory. Now has a new head coach career mode. So on top of getting to build your dynasty by drafting players, signing free agents, and hiring coaching staff, now you also get to call the offensive plays during the game as well. Additionally, you'll dig the new tools that you can work with, such as individual training camps, upgraded negotiation systems, and this fun and realistic game just got a lot better. If you already have it installed, be sure to do an update so you can try out the new mode. If you don't have it yet, download it right now. It's a must-have for all football fans. I love it, and I know you will too. Ultimate Pro Football GM is completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline, so you can play on the go as you want, when you want. Here's a special offer for Locked On fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your franchise. Make sure to get it, as this perk is going to jumpstart your play and give you the advantage that you're going to want in creating a dynasty. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up in the App Store. Ultimate Pro Football GM. Start your dynasty today. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need all in one place to place live bets on the NFL. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. The Buccaneers are losing more and more ground. No game this week, but they are now plus 600 to win the NFC South and plus 13,000 to win the Super Bowl, trailing the Denver Broncos, tied with the New York Jets and the Indianapolis Colts. The Chiefs remain the Super Bowl favorites at plus 430, followed by the Lions at plus 460, Ravens at plus 600, and the Bills at plus 800. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. The new Locked On NFL is here, and it is 2 shows every day. You got the madman Tyler Rowland kicking off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Add in the Locked On local experts. You get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. So head over to the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts and make it your second listen. Greg Alman, the godfather of Locked On Bucs, and of course covering the NFC South for Fox Sports, had a couple of great tweets. And he said on Monday that over the last 6 weeks, the Buccaneers are 1-5, and their defense is last in the NFL in scoring defense, allowing 31.3 points per game, last in total defense, allowing 425.3 yards per game, 31st in pass defense, allowing 304.3 yards per game, and 31st in opponent passer rating, allowing an average of 118.6. He also pointed out that the Bucs have averaged 30.7 points per game over that same span. And in NFL history, there have been 1,353 times that a team has scored 180 or more points over a 6-game span. And out of all of those teams, all 1,353, only 2 of them have managed to win just one game. The 2024 Buccaneers and the 2019 Buccaneers. And I say all of that to say this, is the defense that is one of the worst in the league and, negating an incredible season for the offense going to be the reason that Todd Bowles is fired after this season? Or do you see a path forward in 2025 where Bowles is still the head coach?
The only way I see Bowles as the head coach is if they go on a really crazy run here. They're going to have to go on some sort of heater. I mean, we're talking 6-1 down the stretch, win a playoff game. Again, it would then be a little hard to fire him in that position, but I don't know. The odds are certainly stacked against Todd Bowles surviving this season as of right now. I do not believe you fire Todd Bowles before the end of the year unless it really goes sideways. Let's say they come out of the bye week, you lose to the Giants, you lose to the Panthers.
Oh, God.
He can go. At that point, he can go. You make someone the interim, not Liam Cohen. You make someone else the interim. Could be Larry Foote for all I care. And you move forward. There are some voices out there that think firing, and I think any loyal Bucs fan that's listening to Locked On Bucs understands that the Glazers do not fire coaches midseason, right?
It doesn't
so
happen.
I think we all know that. So the likelihood of any of this happening, I think everyone recognizes won't be there. But if people out there think that if they had the power that they would pull the trigger on Todd, I think that would be a really bad decision. And that's not saying that Todd Bowles is the man of the future, and that's not saying I don't believe in Liam Cohen. It's not a good position to put Liam Cohen in. You have an up-and-coming, rising star. You do not put him in a position to fail. You put him in a position to succeed if the job comes open, if he earns that opening as well. You do not throw him in the middle of a playoff race where the Bucs not only have the easiest schedule, it is the easiest schedule by far in the National Football League. It's not even close. They face one team with a winning record till the end of the season. You have to see if Todd can turn it around. He did it last year when they were 4-7. And there is reason to believe that this defense maybe isn't as bad as they look. They have been playing above their pay grade as far as the competition is concerned. I'm not saying this defense is going to turn into a top 10 unit. I'm just saying that maybe they are just playing some really, really good opponents, and it's proof that this defense isn't good enough to beat the best. And the only reason they beat the Lions was because they held the Lions to 1 of 7 in the red zone. Dan Campbell probably had one of his worst coaching performances in that game as well. So, when we get down to the end of the season and let's say, they make the playoffs and then they lose again to a really good team, it's going to come down to the discussion of, can Todd be the one that leads this defense against other teams best? And I don't know if he's going to be on the right side of that. He could prove me wrong, but we have a large sample size of this season and even going back to last season of Todd's defense being torched against really good competition. And I think we all believe the Buccaneers have some really good players defensively. It might be time for a new voice on that side. So two things are at play here. Does Todd Bowles survive the season? I do not know. Does Todd Bowles make it into next year? I do not know. At this point, my guess would be no. He doesn't. But I do believe Todd Bowles should be the head coach of this team through the remainder of the season, with an asterisk that if it goes completely sideways, he could be fired.
Yeah, you allow Bryce Young and the Panthers to hang a 40 burger on you. It's time to be done.
I mean, we're talking about defense, and that's just the defense. I mean, we haven't even the in-game stuff is horrific as well. And that's the other thing. But even just speaking from a defensive coordinator position, I'm sorry, you got to go. This defense stinks. And it's been showing leakage for the last few seasons, but it's really coming to a head this year.
Yeah, I just even if they make a run and they go 6-1, which I think they absolutely can, probably 5-2 at the absolute worst, and they get into the playoffs, I don't care if they win a playoff game. If they're not in the NFC Championship at the bare minimum, I don't think you can justify bringing Todd Bowles back next year, because you know that the defense isn't going to be able to contain the Lions. I don't think they can contain the Commanders at this point. They wouldn't be able to beat the Eagles at this point. So they have teams on their schedule that they've already beaten. And
I don't know.
I don't think they have a shot.
There's one thing Todd Bowles knows how to do. It's blitz the hell out of Jalen Hurts. But they haven't played AJ Brown in the past 2 matchups. Yeah.
So it would take a miracle. I mean, Todd Bowles is Super Bowl or bust in my opinion. When you're looking at,
I don't know if it's like that, but it's close.
Yeah, someone who's supposed to be this defensive genius, this defensive guru, who has the worst defense in the NFL. The math isn't mathing.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying. Look, there's a lot of nuance that goes into this. It's easy to say it now. You have to go through it, see how the games look, right? If it's anything like when the Buccaneers played the Cowboys and got throttled, right? Let's say that's the NFC Championship game, and they're just so inferior in that moment. I don't know what to say. I mean, there's also bigger problems afoot. That Todd Bowles is terrible on short rest. I think he's 1-10 straight up. That's a problem throughout the course of a season, that he can't have success in that way. He's also really good in long rest. But, I need you good in all situations. It just seems like the way that I compare Todd Bowles right now is the way that I remember feeling about Byron Leftwich, where if you had the personnel that fit Byron's system, it could work. But you need elite personnel with elite execution. And the margin for error was so thin. And that's what we have for Todd. If he had the right person, if we threw in a couple of linebackers and a cornerback on this defense, I think they could be a damn good defense. But again, if I need to rely on the fact that Todd needs, a Super Bowl winning defense of personnel, take the 2019-2020 team, if we need him to have the best possible guys at these positions and near flawless execution, that's just a lot to ask of a team.
All right, well, we are busting out that crystal ball on a bye week. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. All know how much I love going to live events, concerts, sporting events. I'm constantly talking on the show about a concert or a game I'm getting ready to go see. And the first place I'm checking out when I look for tickets is Game Time. I've already used Game Time, as I have done some Christmas shopping for some extra special treats for the family. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I flip on that all-in pricing toggle switch, and then I know exactly what I'm going to spend up front, and there's no surprises when I get to checkout. If you're interested in going to see the Bucs' next home game against the Raiders, you can get tickets for as low as $71. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Whether you're dodging tackles on the field or cheering from your couch, The Joint Chiropractic has your back, literally. As an official chiropractor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're here to make sure that you're always in the game, no matter your role. If you're feeling the pain after a long week or just looking to stay active, they offer personalized care to help you bounce back stronger. 90% of elite athletes, including NFL pros, rely on chiropractic care to stay at the top of their game and perform their best. At The Joint, you don't need an appointment. Just walk in and get the care you need same day. No scheduling hassles. Just walk in when it's convenient for you. Here's the real kicker. As a Bucs fan, you can get your first visit for just $19. Head over to Buccaneers.com. Check out the contest and promotion section under the fans tab. Then download the offer. A great deal for great fans. Head to thejoint.com to find your nearest Tampa area location. Wrapping things up here on the WTSP Wednesday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. And it's a different kind of crystal ball this week because there's no game this weekend. Everybody gets to take a nice little breather, a little respite, kick back and relax. You can do a family fun day. You can go to Amelie instead. You can.
That's right. Give your significant other some time on a Sunday. This is the time.
Yeah. Put up the Christmas decorations. I'm usually an after Thanksgiving kind of guy, but you got this bye week. Make the most of it. Go ahead, knock out the Christmas stuff now so you don't have to worry about it when the Bucs are playing and likely playing against a team that they should beat pretty handily. But Evan, let's do some bold predictions. But I want your bold predictions for rest of season on the offensive side of the ball.
Bold prediction, offensive side of the football. You tell me if this is bold, but I think Mike Evans is going to get the 1K.
Doesn't get it?
No, does.
Oh, does get it. I'm here for it. Like I mentioned it.
I feel like that's pretty bold considering where he's at now and how many games are left.
Yeah,
I don't know if you need to tell me to increase the boldness.
No, he has to average 95 yards a game for the rest of the season. Add to that, I do think it's bold, by the way. Add to that the fact that we've had 3 games now where none of these receivers really stepped up. Jalen McMillan, I mean, he's Jalen Houdini. Nobody saw him. He's a ghost.
We have to have another. There's another discussion to have on Jalen McMillan on another show.
For sure.
There's a lot of things happening there.
Yeah, I mean, Sterling Shepard, he had some decent moments. Ryan Miller, okay.
Sterling Shepard, by the way, was originally on the practice squad, and
right.
Ryan Miller didn't even make the team. This is, we got to remember where these guys are, and they're being thrust into a certain level of competition here. And I like Sterling Shepard a lot, actually. I think he can be involved more, but he is limited in the impact that he can do in the routes that he runs.
Right, but the point that I'm getting to is none of these guys are going to be viewed as a threat. So now defenses know that Mike Evans is back. You don't have Chris Godwin on the field to take any attention away. So Mike is going to constantly face double and triple teams. Now, I do feel like he's going to have one of his vintage Mike Evans games where he puts up like 160 and 2. So you could get 2 games worth of production that you need to reach that 1,000 yards, but it's going to be tough for him to reach that 1,000-yard mark with 7 games. There is no room for error. So it'll be interesting. But once again, if he does get it, it means that even though the NFL went to a 17-game schedule during his streak, he's never needed 17 games to get his 1,000 yards. He has done it in 16 games or less every single time. So I like it. And of all the predictions you've ever had, I want that one to come true the most. But what is your bold prediction for the defensive side of the ball?
The Bucs will not give up more than 25 points the rest of the season. Rest of the regular season. That's my bold. You need it bold. Double espresso shot and black coffee.
Yeah, that one's definitely bold. I mean, and I don't know, man. Maybe Jamel Dean coming back helps, but he wasn't really playing
I think you
well
have to factor
before.
in. You have to.
You have to factor in the offenses that they're playing.
I like that Todd Bowles said in his press conference that they're going to do some heavy self-scouting. I think this is going to be a good week for them. You're going to be facing offenses that are not very good, right? I mean, like Giants, Panthers, Raiders, Chargers is the tough one there. But even the Chargers, they're a team built on defense, not offense. Chargers and Bucs, the way they're built right now, that's going to be a slobber knocker of a game. I mean, just like that's a Big Ten, Illinois, Michigan type of contest right there. Then you play Cowboys, Panthers, Saints. So I don't know. It's a mix of the competition coming up and also the fact that I don't think they can possibly be this bad rest of the season. It can't be. Todd Bowles is not this. He's so much better than this. Like, and I know he's getting no credit right now, and he doesn't deserve it. But I have to believe that this week is going to do him some good, and he'll figure some crap out.
All right, and then we're going to get your predictive player for rest of season. And, Baker rules are in effect. You're not allowed to choose Baker Mayfield. But if the Bucs make a run and find their way into the playoffs, this is the player that you're pointing to as being a big reason why.
I'm saying that Mike Evans is going to hit 1,000 yards, so I feel like that's doubling up. I don't want to do him. Let me give one offensive, one defensive. One offensive, Rachaad White. I think that he can be more multiple in what he does out there, and I think trusting Liam, his creativity, I think something might get unlatched. So that's offensive. Defensive, Vita Vea. He's been so good this year. So good. Forget about the stats. What he does on that defensive line is so impressive. And if they are going to make the playoffs, he will continue to be a beast in the trenches and hopefully muck things up against these teams that maybe aren't the best offensive lines in the National Football League. Carolina actually is pretty good on the interior. That's a concern. By the way, when you go through all the nitty-gritty, like Giants get sacks. Panthers have a good interior offensive line. The Raiders have Max Crosby. Each of these teams presents an issue, which is why Todd Bowles said this week, like, if you think we have an easy schedule and we're gonna just win, we'll lose them all, right? Each of these teams have something special about them. It just hasn't come together. So I think Vita Vea is the key cog there.
All right. Well, let everybody know what you have going on over there on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com.
Well, we have a bye week, so we're taking a bye week ourselves on the Blitz, but we will return before the Giants game. And you can watch that on 10 Tampa Bay, Sundays, 8:30 in the morning. But if you don't live in the area, you can also check out our YouTube page, 10 Tampa Bay YouTube page, and the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app, where the Blitz will play as well. So please check that out. The Bolts were on their own bye week. They return to action on Thursday against Winnipeg. The Annika, the LPGA Tour event, is in town. We got that cooking. So head to 10tampabay.com, check all that stuff out, and read more about Tropicana Field, which is going to need at least $56 million in work done to it. If the Rays want to play there in 2026, they cannot play there in 2025.
All right. Well, yep. Make sure you're checking out everything over at 10 Tampa Bay and 10tampabay.com. Check out everything that I'm doing over at the 813.tv. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at eClaskeyWTSP. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes. And of course, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube with those notifications turned on, as well as your favorite podcast platform. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs. part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.